There are a few warnings I want to get out of the way before I tell this story. First, there are mentions of suicide. I don't go into detail just out of the respect for the individuals involved and their family. Second, I will also be talking about depression and anxiety. The story is extremely dark but also terrifying. I have never had something like this happen again, thank goodness. To begin, I need to tell you what exactly a white-eyed child is. There's not a lot of information about them, but from the research I've done, they're messengers of death. Another name for them is angel of death. A lot of elderly people tend to see them right before they die. It is also said that if you see one, it means either you or someone you know is about to pass on. At the time of the sighting, I had no knowledge about these children or their meanings. I didn't connect the dots until later on. The dots being seeing the child and then the death that followed. So, a little backstory. I got a job at this retirement home after I had moved out of my parents' house at the age of 18. Finding employment was proving difficult, so my best friend's mother, Lola, did me a solid and got me a job at this place she worked. The building was old. It was formerly a train station before it was converted into a retirement home. Since it was where many people lived for the remainder of their lives, there were a lot of deaths over the years, which meant there were shadow figures. I remember asking my coworker about them, and she said it wasn't uncommon to spot one in the corner of your eye. She told me not to worry about it. They were harmless. That was about the extent of the paranormal activity I had encountered. However, while working there, I had some severe anxiety, something I had never suffered from before. It probably didn't help that the environment was pretty toxic. The boss was sexist, and the kitchen was filled with middle-aged women with nothing better to do than gossip. Now, it wasn't my first time working in a less than ideal place, but at my old job, which just so happened to be Walmart, I never felt anxiety like this. It was always dread. I actually had my first anxiety attack working at the retirement home. It was scary and out of the blue, probably one of the worst experiences of my life, and I never had anxiety again after I left. Anyway, the day I saw the white-eyed child was just a regular work day. I worked as a dishwasher, but I also helped prep, mainly peeling potatoes, helping with other little things. So, I was on my way to the pantry to grab something when a little girl popped up in front of me. It startled me so badly that I stopped dead in my tracks, half expecting to mow a little girl down. But she was gone just as soon as she appeared. I remembered glancing around the kitchen, seeing if any of my other coworkers spotted this little girl, but they were all carrying on with their tasks as if nothing had happened. I recall some of her details. She wore a white, olden day dress, blonde pigtails, a white cap, and white eyes. I might have only seen her for a millisecond, but I'll never forget how her eyes had no pupils or irises. To describe the dish bed, it was in the shape of the U. Beside my workstation was a door that led out to the dining room. The door had a small window. This is important to the story. These large windows in the dining room overlooked the street in front of the building. It was around 2 p.m. when I spotted the red and blue flashing lights in the little window. My coworker came in shortly after in tears. I asked her what was wrong, and that's when she informed me that one of the residents had taken their own life. For some reason, I decided to walk out of the kitchen to see that the entire street was filled with fire trucks, ambulances, and police. Again, I won't go into detail, but I will say it was horrible. I knew who the resident was. They were kind, they were caring, and they were a wonderful human being. Their passing weighed heavily on us all, making working at that place even harder. I'm unsure how to describe the next part, but the atmosphere felt heavy. Not sad, but evil. I know I sound insane, but it was like, on top of being sad for our friend, it was also like something had taken up residence in the building, like it had been feeding off of the misery. There were a lot of deaths following this passing, a lot of health problems, and even the employees were suffering from the effects. I fell into a deep depression, and I'm still suffering from, although that has been something I've been struggling with for a while. Anyway, that is the story of these wide-eyed children. It's incredibly dark and does not have a happy ending, but I will never forget it. I will say that if you or someone you know is suffering, please reach out. I know I sound like a broken record, but from one broken record person to another, you're not alone. And more importantly, don't be ashamed to reach out. You're not weaker for admitting that you need help. You're a heck of a lot stronger for it. Alright, I could go on and on about mental health stuff, but thanks for reading. Okay, I haven't told this story to anyone, even my mom, and look at me now, sharing on Reddit. But this will be long, so I do apologize in advance. This happened to me a long time ago. So my cousins, Kilite, male 14, Giro, male 16, Bonnie, male 15, Chewy, male 14, and myself, female 14. When we found this Ouija board inside a box in my late great-uncle's house, it was also my cousin Giro's idea to play it. It did take some coaxing, but he convinced all of us to go into an empty field close to my Nana's house and try to play with it. We had always been warned to never play with anything like this, but we were kids and, well, you know, we liked to seek the thrill of not listening to the adults. Anyways, we did the ritual, or at least what we thought we had to do. We didn't have the internet to look this up, but we had heard word about how to specifically do this, that we needed to place our fingers on the tab and then move it around as we asked questions on the Ouija board, and then stop moving it when we're finished asking the questions. Seemed innocent enough. We asked silly questions like what day it was, and we got nothing. The tab didn't move one single time. Then, Bonnie asked, "When will I die?" And the tab began to move. We all laughed, thinking either Bonnie or Chewy were just moving it on their own. But as it moved, the board we felt like this electric shock from it onto our fingertips. It startled me, and I moved away and moved my hand off of it because I felt scared. But quickly, Giro told me to put it back, and then he called out each letter on the board. It spelled out pronto, which translates to soon. I remember the feeling around us went from nothing to frightening. I had the urge to back off and run away, but Giro, who could see that I was very uncomfortable, reassured me that we were okay, that it was just the nervousness getting to us. Now, because Bonnie had asked something that made the tab move, we told him to ask another question. He looked scared, but he finally asked if he was going to be killed, and right away, the tab moved to the word yes. Not gonna lie, When this happened, he took his hand off, and I remember all of us just looking at him, and Giro tried to calm him down. At this point, Giro said that it could just be anyone moving the tab, but deep down, that was the excuse to keep the little piece that we were holding in, because even as Chewie, Kilite, and I still had our fingers on the tab, we felt something when the tab moved. Bonnie said that he was scared, and he didn't want to continue, but Giro told him that he had to finish what he had started. Bonnie insisted that we stop, and Giro, like the real smooth talker that he is, convinced Bonnie to keep lying. But only this time, he had Kilite ask the questions. He asked, when would Bonnie be killed? Bonnie was pissed that he asked that. Kilite was a jokester amongst us. I think he was just trying to lighten the mood, but Bonnie was on edge at the revelation. Anyways, the board answered 10. It pointed out. Chewie then spoke up, and he said, "Guys, I feel like something's holding me in place. I've been trying to lift my finger off this thing since it moved the last time," he said. And that's when we all tried to get off the tab, and couldn't. That's when Bonnie and Kilite panicked. They started to scream, and Giro tried to keep us all calm. We were held in place by something, and it was horrifying. We couldn't move it, like it was freezing us in place. Giro again got my other cousin to stop breathing hard and yelling. Chewie and I were just crying. Giro said, "We just need to finish the game, guys. We need to stay level-headed." He spoke calmly, but he was scared like us. Then I asked how we were to finish when we didn't even know how we even started. Giro said that we would just ask if it was okay to leave. He took a deep breath and asked if we could leave. It answered, no. Bonnie was a little more calm, but he said maybe we needed to ask one more thing and before asking if we could be released. Giro agreed, and he asked, who was it that was with us? It spelled out S-A-T-A-N-A, Satan. When I tell you the fear I felt is something that I have never felt or want to feel again. Once we realized what it said, it went quiet. Mind you, it was bright daylight, but we couldn't hear any wind or anything. It was like time froze on us. And again, cue the waterworks from Chewie, Kilite, and I. We were scared shitless. My cousin Giro then asked Satan, can we leave? And it said no. There was no calming us. Then Bonnie began to yell at Giro, and he lost his composure, and he tried again to leave, but couldn't. It was like our legs stopped working for us. Giro took a deep breath and said maybe someone new needs to ask if we can leave. And so Kilite asked, and the board went crazy. The tab went from side to side, our fingertips still attached, and suddenly we were released, and we got up and ran as fast as we physically could, leaving the board behind. I was sobbing and ran to my Nana's house. My cousin Kilite and Chewie ran home to their mothers to tell them what had happened, while Giro and Bonnie ran to who knows where. I told my Nana everything. She was upset, but she had my uncle drive us to where we had left the board, and it was gone. My Nana got the boys rounded up, and they swore they didn't have it. And after digging around in their rooms, the board didn't come up. Then, my Nana called a priest, had us blessed, and had the healer pray over charm bracelets for our protection, and we didn't ask of this again. My cousins and I went different paths in life. Kilite became a politician, Giro a lawyer, Chewie an owner of a cab license place, and Bonnie, well, he was a Class A criminal. Now I won't give a year or wherever this happened, but Bonnie was murdered when he was 25 years old, and he was one of 8 other victims of a supposed serial killer. He was shot twice in the face while he slept. His death was what reunited my cousins and I, and it left us completely mind-blown. The board had told us Bonnie would be killed, and when Gilad had asked when, it responded with 10. I still think of this fateful day. Maybe life would have been different if we hadn't played with that board. Maybe Bonnie wouldn't have lived his life so recklessly, waiting for death at his door. I wish we could have taken it back. But maybe this was fate. Thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did and would like to see more of these, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning those post notifications on so every time I post, you guys get the notification. Also, if you've made it this far, 1, thank you. 2, please comment below. And 3, tell me if you believe that this is fact or fiction. I wonder how many times I'm gonna have to cut out the goddamn helicopter flying across. But yeah, true story or a fictional story, I'm gonna leave it up to you. But with that being said, stay safe, stay scary, and I'll see you in the next one. Also, make sure to go check out the new merch that I dropped in the new store. I'll make sure to put the link. Okay, bye.